Please welcome back to The Late Show, Curtis 50 Cent Jackson.
I don't have that kind of money. That's exactly what I'm going to say when they sue me.
I don't like fighting fights that I can't win.
Looking sharp, man.
I clean up pretty good. It does something for my love life. Now, Complex, they do have a female following, don't you?
Listen.
Occupational options, get some blow up some hoes. Shoot the ball of the strap and bust so I make a move. Maneuver around the rats and wolves, I'm from the school.
50 Cent's rise from nothing to superstar is just completely insane. Alright, let's talk about 50. You know, his real beginning, because that's where things usually start. Duh. You know, his real name is Curtis James Jackson III. And he was born on July 6, 1979 in Queens, New York. He grew up in South Jamaica, the Queens. And if you know anything about that area in the 80s and 90s, you know it wasn't sweet. It was kind of the place, you know, where kids see things really early. It's disturbing things, to be honest. And nobody's shocked anymore because it's just the normal out there. Now here's the crazy part. His mom, Sabrina Jackson, was only 15 years old when she had him. And she wasn't living a calm life. You know, she was involved in drug dealing. So Curtis grew up around that energy from the get-go. But when he was about 8 years old, his mom was killed, unfortunately. Reports show that she was found dead after a fire in her apartment. And there were signs it wasn't an accident. Yeah, imagine being 8 and your world just gets ripped away like that. That's sad. After that, Curtis was raised by his grandparents, but even with family around, the streets still had like a loud voice. And South Jamaica had a way of teaching kids one lesson: be tough or you'll get crushed. So that's the environment that 50 was built in. You know, before rap, before money, before his fame, he was just a kid from the Queens learning how to survive. Now listen, this is where things start to get downhill. And it's important you really feel this part. You know, after his mom died, Curtis was living with his grandparents, but the streets of South Jamaica were still right there. And when you're a kid in that environment, the streets don't wait for you to grow up. They pull you in very early, hence we see so many kids going the bad routes. By the time he was around 12 years old, Curtis was around selling drugs, basically. Not because he wanted to, or he wanted to be flashy, but because it was the example he saw. The money felt like security in his world. Hustling wasn't really a choice. It felt like that's what you had to do to survive. Think about that. 12 years old, whilst most kids are worried about school or video games, trying to play with sticks, trying to, you know, make planes, he was worrying about the police, rival dealers, and staying alive. He carried stress most adults couldn't even handle today. I know I couldn't. And the streets taught him something really fast. You learn who to trust. You learn who's fake. You learn that mistakes have actual consequences. That environment hardened him, made him sharp, made him fearless, but also angry and guarded. This wasn't some phase, you know, this was reality. And the crazy part, those street experiences later became the raw material for his actual music. Every bar, every threat, every warning, those weren't made up. Curtis didn't find rap, aka 50, because he was dreaming about Grammys or stages. Nah, he found rap because he needed somewhere to put everything he was carrying, like the anger, the pressure he was put on himself, the streets, knowledge, all of that had to go somewhere. You know, in his teenage years, he started writing lyrics seriously, not fake stories, not made up characters, just real life. What he was seeing, what he was doing, what he was surviving. And the thing about 50, he didn't sugarcoat anything. Like, his delivery was aggressive, direct, fearless, because that's how he lived. He practiced constantly, freestyling, writing, rewriting, learning how to make his words hit harder. Rap wasn't just music to him, you know, it felt like potential exists, a door that might lead somewhere else. But even then, nothing was guaranteed. He was still in the streets, still hustling, still risking his life. Music was hope, not safety. And that's what made his early rap different. You could hear hunger in his voice, desperation, confidence mixed with pain. This wasn't someone pretending to be tough. Nah, this was someone trying to survive long enough to escape. That mindset he had, that's what made people feel him. In the late 1990s, all that grinding started paying off. He caught attention, industry people noticed his raw energy, the streets' presence in him was shown, and how real his lyrics sounded. Eventually, he signed a deal with Columbia Records, and for someone from South Jamaica that felt huge, like, man, I finally made it. You know, he even recorded a full album called Power of the Dollar. Songs were done, rollout was coming, everything felt lined up, but then, just like that, it all disappeared. The album never dropped. Why? Politics, fear, industry games. After getting shot later on, labels didn't want the problem. They didn't want risk. So instead of standing by him, they quietly backed away. Phones stopped ringing, doors closed. Imagine how that feels. You escape the streets just enough to touch success. And then the industry pulls the rug out from under you. The moment planted something dangerous in 50, that was resentment. But it also built something stronger, like independence. He realized nobody was coming to save him, and if he wanted it, he'd have to take it himself. And that mindset, that's what made his comeback legendary. In May 2000, Curtis was sitting in a car outside his grandmother's house in the Queens. Regular day, normal moments. Then suddenly, gunfire. He was shot 9 times at close range. The face, the hand, the arm, his chest, his legs, everywhere. Think about that. 9 bullets, let's be honest here. Would you make even 2? Like, that's crazy. One hit his jaw, shattered it, and came out through his chest, and came out through his cheek. That's why his voice sounds the way it is today. Doctors later said he was incredibly lucky to be alive. Most people don't survive that, ever. And here's the cold part, the industry ran even further away after this. Labels didn't see a survivor, they saw liability, risk. Someone with too much street energy attached to it. But for 50, nah, this wasn't just pain, this was fuel. While recovering, unable to move properly, he had some time to think and how close death came, how real it was, about how nothing was promised, and instead of slowing down, he came back hungrier, more focused, more dangerously mentally. Surviving 9 shots didn't make him scared, it made him fearless, and from that moment on, his mindset changed forever. If death can't stop it, if death can't stop me, nothing can. Now this is where 50 stopped waiting for permission. After surviving 9 bullets, the industry still didn't want him, no label support, no big budget, just no safety. But instead of begging his way back in, 50 did something smarter. He went to the streets with his music. He started dropping mixtapes. Not soft one, aggressive, fearless, disrespectful. Like, he took popular beats and absolutely destroyed them with his lyrics. Every song sounded like a warning. I'm back and I'm not scared of anybody. These types of mixtapes spread fast. Not through radio, but through cars. The barbershops when you're trying to get your hair. The street corners. Those people always in the corner. You know what I'm saying. The same places where real opinions matter. People felt the hunger in his voice. They believed him because his story was real. And here's the key thing. 50 learned independence. Now, listen. He learned marketing. He learned how to buzz. He learned how business really works. He labeled things telling him what to do. No rules, just pressure and execution all the way through. The phase rebuilt his name from the ground up. Slowly, word started spreading out New York. Industry people started paying attention again, but this time 50 had leverage because now he wasn't just a rapper trying to survive. No. He was a problem. The industry couldn't ignore him anymore. Now here's where everything changes for 50. Those mixtapes he was dropping, they didn't just reach the streets, they reached the right ears. and one of them ended up with Eminem. And when Eminem heard 50, he felt it immediately. He felt it immediately. The hunger, the pain, the confidence, it was different. Eminem didn't overthink it. He played the music for Dr. Dre. And Dre felt the same thing. They didn't see a problem, nah. They saw potential. They saw someone who had been going through hell and came back stronger. Not long after that, 50 signed with Shady Records and Aftermath Entertainment. For the first time, he had a real backing, like real belief, real power behind him. But here's the important part. He didn't change who he was to fit in. He didn't soften his image. He didn't clean up his story. Eminem and Dre didn't want that anyway. They wanted the real 50, the real Curtis. This moment wasn't lucky. It was preparation meeting opportunity. Every mixtape, every setback, every bullet wound led right here. And once that door opened, 50 was ready. When Get Rich or Die Trying dropped in 2003, oh my, it wasn't just another rap album, nah. It felt like a statement, like, I survived everything you tried to take me out with and I'm still here. The music hit hard, but the story behind it hit even harder. Songs like In the Club weren't just catchy, they were victory laps. You could hear confidence, hunger, and revenge all mixed up together. The album talked about survival, loyalty, and power. Not to mention betrayal. People who believed every word because none of it sounded fake. The numbers went crazy, millions of copies sold, charts dominated, 50 went from blacklisted to unavoidable overnight. And suddenly, the same industry that once turned its back on him was celebrating him. Like, really? What made this album legendary wasn't just success, it was the impact. It changed the sound of hip-hop. It made street realism mainstream again. It turned 50 Cent into a global superstar. This wasn't luck, this was pain converted into pressure. And the pressure turned into greatness. Once the music money started coming in, 50 didn't just spend it, now he studied. He watched how business worked, like I said earlier. He paid attention to ownership, brandings, and leverage. Because in his mind, rap was never the final destination. It was the entry point to what he wanted to do. He started moving into movies and TV acting, producing, creating stories instead of just rapping about them. And when he got into business deals, he didn't just think short term, he thought long term power. This is also where his reputation as a ruthless businessman came from. 50 understood negotiation, understanding timing, understood that staying rich is harder than getting rich, and everything he learned from the streets, patience, strategy, reading people, he applied it into business. A lot of artists made money and disappeared. 50 did the opposite. He turned music into success and real leverage, bringing him the money. This is someone who should not be here, statistically and realistically. He lost his mother young, got pulled into the street as a kid. He got blacklisted by the industry. You know how hard that is? He was shot 9 times. Left for dead. And instead of folding, instead of life turning his back on him, he came back stronger every single time. 50 turned survival into strength, pain into motivation, fear into strategy. He didn't just win in music, he learned how to win in life. And to think ahead, how to protect himself, how to turn chaos into control. His legacy isn't just albums or hits, it's mindset, it's resilience, it's proof that your past doesn't get to decide your future. For kids from the streets, 50 became a symbol. You can come from nothing, go through hell, and still end up powerful. That's why his stories last. Not because he was fearless, but because he refused to quit when quitting made the most sense.